All right, I want to thank everybody for coming. We do have a busy weekend ahead, so we're going to go ahead and get started. After being elected to serve as deputy chair of the Republican Party of Minnesota and finding myself serving as acting chair, I took immediate action to fully review the financial issues facing our party in order to take concrete steps toward earning and building the trust of our activists. In October, the executive committee of the state party formed the Internal Financial Review Committee, which is chaired by National Committeeman Jeff Johnson, to review the financial records of our party. After my election in early December, I contacted Mike Beckich, a Republican businessman well known for helping businesses in crisis, and asked him to provide his services to our party. Mike agreed to the request and has been working with the Internal Financial Review Committee on a volunteer basis. I want to assure everyone that we are committed to making sure the Republican Party of Minnesota is accountable for its actions and is more transparent with its information. The volunteers, the donors, and the voters deserve nothing less. Now I'd like to ask both Jeff Johnson and Mike Beckich to report their findings from the Internal Financial Review.
You just slide all
of them over.
Thank you.
I just want to provide a little bit of context and background. Mike is actually going to go through the numbers with you, but I want to kind of tell you how we got to where we are today. I started on the executive committee in May, and it was actually a new executive committee in May. And it became obvious relatively quickly that many activists and many members of the executive committee really had some serious concerns about party finances. They were worried that they didn't have all the information that they should have. There were lots of rumors flying around about debt that wasn't being reported or obligations that nobody knew about. And so there came a time amongst all of the executive committee members where we decided we really need to have a group of us from within the executive committee sit down and try to get our arms around this and address those rumors and those questions. So in October, it was mid-October, the executive committee unanimously created the Internal Financial Review Committee, of which I am the chair, and there are 5 other members from the executive committee on that committee. And that was a unanimous decision. Tony Sutton supported it as well in that meeting. Our goal as a group, which is outlined in the Memorandum of Understanding, which is attached to your material, was not to do an audit. And I think Mike will make it clear that he didn't do an audit either. We're doing a financial review, and really what we wanted to do was try to get our arms around the financial status of the party so that we were all on the same page, and so that Republicans in Minnesota could feel like they really knew what the financial situation within the party was. We started doing our work as a committee in November. We put together a plan. We started gathering documents, and then Tony Sutton resigned. And the next day, we had a new deputy chair and a new acting chair in Kelly Fenton. And Kelly Fenton quickly talked to Mike Beckich and asked if he would be willing to step in and, among other things, help my committee complete the work that we were trying to do in getting our arms around the financials by the end of the year. And I'm thankful that he and his team agreed to do that. And that's how we got to where we are today. Now, the debt number is honestly higher than any of us wants it to be. There's some ugly stuff in here. But we decided early as a committee, and Kelly and Mike both agreed strongly with this, that we were going to disclose everything that we found, ugly or not ugly, because we really believe that our Republican activists and donors deserve to know exactly where the party stands, warts and all. And there are some warts in here, but it's all disclosed. We're not running away from it, and we intend to meet it head on. This is absolutely, in my opinion, surmountable. In fact, it's very similar to where the RNC was 11 months ago. In January of 2011, a new leadership team came in with Reince Priebus, and they quickly uncovered an amount of debt that nobody would have imagined, including the members of the RNC. And what he did with his leadership team was he created a plan, has been working that plan relentlessly, and in less than a year, they have completely turned that ship around. And there's no reason that the same thing can't and won't happen with the Republican Party. We now know the full extent of our problem, of our financial problem, and the next step, because this was step one, the next step is now to put together a plan for 2012 that will allow us to start retiring the debt and to do everything that we need to do as a party to win some really important elections in 2012. I believe that we can and will do that. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mike Bekich. And let me just say that I'm very thankful that Mike and his team were willing to step in, as are the other members of my committee. We worked closely with him. But if he wouldn't have come in and essentially with his team worked around the clock for the last couple of weeks, we wouldn't be prepared to present what we're going to present tomorrow to our state central delegation. So Mike, thank you, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, and Kelly and Jeff, thank you for this opportunity. First of all, I want to say that I want to commend the Republican Party for taking the position that they have here in opening up the books, being totally transparent and bringing people in to actually take a look at what's here. I want to tell you that the staff, the executive committee, Jeff's committee, and Chair Fenton have been totally cooperative in all of our efforts here. Nothing's been withheld, and so we've had access to everything possible in order to do our overall review. I want to emphasize that this is not a certified audit, it is not a forensic audit, it is a financial overview and trying to get the records up to date as clearly as possible. This is not an unusual function for at least me to come in to troubled organizations and take a look at what's going on. I certainly have seen worse. This is surmountable. Things that once we know what the total numbers are, once the new leadership is in place on Saturday, we'll start working on a plan going forward. So in coming in, we took a look at what we knew, and was there anything that was unknown? And we did find some things that were unknown at the time. And I will go through those here in just a moment. So as a process going over, no audit, but we got all of the data, brought some team members in to do the work, and as a result of that, you've seen in your memo today. Let me go through some of those numbers with you. As you can see in the table that's provided to you in your press release, you can see that previously reported obligations, accounts payable, was approximately $428,000 in the normal course. Obligations previously unreported on RPM financial statements was approximately $415,000. We have a list of all of those. We've gone through the invoices. They're there and can be dealt with. Their obligations reported as completed were checks that had not been sent to vendors. That's approximately $68,000. Those were items that were actually, checks were written, they were unmailed, but they were reported on the appropriate reports. This other item here, refund checks sent to contributors who have not been cashed by contributors. This as a result of a 2008 election cycle where they exceeded the federal amounts that could be actually accepted. The checks were sent out, approximately $30,000. The party has been trying to get the parties to cash them. They've reissued checks. They can't in the normal process, but the parties have at this point decided not to cash those checks. The remaining obligation on the FEC fine, that is also in your documentation. The original fine was $170,000, and I believe it was settled in the August 2001, September 2001 time period. $170,000, there was an initial payment of $20,000, and they are set on a payment plan of $15,000 per month until completed. All of those payments are up to date and taken care of. The unreconciled credit card debt is approximately $18,000. That is something that the team is still working through to reconcile that, but those amounts go back a couple of years, so we're still working through those numbers. In addition to that, in a normal case, all organizations generally have a line of credit and installment debt. In this case, the party does have a line of credit at $50,000, which has been totally utilized. They continue to pay interest only, and the interest payments are up to date. And in addition to that, there's $152,000 on an installment note in a normal course, and all of those payments are up to date. So that with the total, we come up to about $1.2, almost $1.3 million in total debt and obligations. There are obviously other questions relative to the recount, and as you can see, that's also noted in there. Those numbers are still under consideration, and we're working with legal counsel and determining what that is, as well as working with the FEC. In addition to that, the party will be consulting with the FEC on some of these unreported amounts, and as to that, and so that really completed our work as of to date. So I emphasize again, this was not an audit, a certified financial audit. It was not a forensic audit. It was putting together what is the financial information that's available here. As I've described to both Kelly and Jeff, how big is the pile? We've determined, what the pile here is, $1.283 million. So thank you.
How does this happen? Was this lack of leadership? Was this irresponsibility, arrogance? How did it come to this?
Well, this is, if you take a look back at the situation as Jeff just explained with the Republican Party, these things do happen. I have not delved into that on a big extent. I can't really give you a specific answer. It does happen, but the more important part is the fact is that they have a handle on it now. And going forward, you have leadership here that is committed to making sure that this does not occur again.
You've said several times that this was not an audit and not a forensic audit. Why not do that?
Well, first of all, we had a very short period of time. Came in 2 weeks. I would like to say that we're supermen, but that would not be the case. An audit would take months to get done.
Should that be done from the point now, just for total peace of mind? I mean, I know you've come out with this and you guys can build a game plan out for this. Should a more complete audit be done?
Once the new chair is in place, he and the executive committee will be making some decisions. That really is a decision making for the leadership.
Could you characterize some of the obligations previously unreported, which is the largest chunk of new debt, I guess?
The $415,000?
Yeah.
Those are in the normal course accounts payable that were not previously reported. The party had been making payments on those. Why they were not reported, I don't have an answer to that.
How much? I'm sorry,
Is that a possible violation of not reporting expenditures?
Well, there'll be in consultation with the portion that is reportable to the FEC. The party will have discussions, in consultation with them.
And with the campaign finance board as well? I mean, is this a potential where you're going to get hit with fines on the FEC and the state?
Well, the report of for the campaign finance board is due at the end of January. I would assume that all of those will be paid, all will be reported.
But are any of these bills or receipts, were they filed in 2010 as opposed to 2011? Because if they filed in 2010 and not reported, it's a violation.
There are some that are in 2010.
So there's a potential that there was a violation of not reported.
I'm not an expert in that area, but it will be reported.
Can
Can I just add to that? You know, our intent is we're going to fix whatever we need to fix, whether it's on campaign finance reports or on FEC reports. And we're working with the FEC to figure out how best to do that now, and we'll do the same thing if there are changes that need to be made with the campaign finance report.
Can you say that everybody who is owed money by the Republican Party of Minnesota will be paid?
Would you repeat that question, please?
Everybody who is owed money here in this 1.283, everybody there who is owed that money will be repaid, will be paid.
Well, as a part of the cash flow, I can't specifically state that as part of the party, but the parties are responsible for debt, and they will pay it.
How do you plan on doing that? Are you going to be asking some of the people owed money if you could payment plans? I mean, how does this work, and where does the money come in terms of raising it to pay back?
That's a great question, and remember, this is a 2 to 3 phase process. The first one is to determine what is the debt. The second phase is getting new leadership in place and to determine what the plan is. And the third part is then getting active and working in fundraising, etc. So I think as the first phase that we're focusing on right now should be the fact is everything being reported and being fully transparent.
Could you explain why the party isn't obligated for the legal funds? I mean, just looked at Secretary of State's report, and it says that this count them all properly wasn't reported until December 3rd, which was a month after the recount basically started. So someone had to be on the hook to tell the attorneys we're going to pay you, right? So how do you make the argument that the party isn't obligated to pay those debts?
That's under legal review at this point.
But Tony Trimble, one of the attorneys, has indicated that he has a signed agreement, signed by Tony Sutton, stating that the party would be financially obligated to cover these legal bills. Do you dispute that that document and whether it's legitimate?
That's under legal review.
Can you talk a little bit about these unreconciled credit card debt? When you say unreconciled, what do you mean by that? Were these classic credit cards, or were they prepaid credit cards? How did that work?
As we understand, they're not prepaid credit cards. These are credit cards that go back to the Kerry administration, and we're getting the background data now from the card company, so we can reconcile them.
Do you know how many credit cards they were and who held them?
There may have been 1 or 2 that we can see. Obviously, they were held by the Mr. Kerry, and I'm not sure who the other people were. But we're trying to determine, by getting the background data on it, what they are, and that'll probably take another month or so.
Can any of this debt be negotiated with vendors and the attorneys?
That's always a possibility, but as you know, there are regulations relative to federal and state law as to what one can do with that debt. So I would, at this point, not want to be specific. There are some restrictions.
Are there any other expenditures that go back beyond former Chairman Sutton's administration? You just mentioned.
None that we found at this point.
How does this compare in light of your expenditures? Do you guys have a sense of how much was spent in 2011? Party, budget-wise?
Response? I don't know the answer to that.
And say that again.
Your 2011 expenditures, do you guys have an estimate of how much those are to just kind of bring to light how this compares to your annual budget?
Well, in terms of what's in here,
Yeah.
We are working on, there is a breakdown of what was from 2010.
Oh, I guess I mean your overall expenditures for 2011. Do you have a handle on what those were yet?
Yeah, and Jeff, you may have a handle better. We did put out a proposed short-term 2012 budget in which we pared back extremely a lot. So
That will all be a discussion tomorrow, and State Central will be hopefully passing a 5-month budget, which will be considerably smaller than this past year.
Commissioner Johnson, do you feel like in the course of the last 2 years, you feel like Chairman Sutton gave everybody sort of an accurate sense of the financial picture of the party?
I'm not going to go there today because I really want to focus on, and the reason we're here is to focus on the number and make everybody understand where we're at. I just joined the executive committee in May, as many of the members did, and I think we have, part of our job as an executive committee is to monitor the budget, and I think that's why we're here today, because we started that process.
Can someone explain how the party is going to be politically viable this year, or next year, 2012, knowing that you're in a hole this big?
Well, I think that's part of the next step, and we'll have a new chairman in 2 days, and that chairman is going to take the lead in putting together the plan to do just that, and I believe we can. One of your questions was, will these debtors be paid off? And I think they need to be, but it might take a while, and because we need to start doing that, but we also have to do what a party needs to do, and that is essentially create a ground game and help the campaigns that we have in the state. So I think it's absolutely possible, but that comes next. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Well, I think it's,
Can you slide the mics over if you do that?
it's obtainable and it's a clear opportunity to work with
Can you hold on a
other.
second for the mic?
It's very obtainable and it's a clear opportunity to work with other Republican-friendly organizations in partnership, as well as some restructuring of going back to what we really do well and building a great ground game for our endorsed candidates and continuing on in our voter ID and identifying the voters. So it is a good opportunity to restructure.
Based
one more
on,
question, guys.
based
We have
on
to get going.
what we saw earlier this week with the Senate GOP and financial troubles with the state GOP as a whole, what does the Republican Party say to voters after they've seen in the month of December to try to regain the trust and, financially speaking, regain some support after what's been a very difficult month for the party as a whole?
Well, this is one of the first steps in being accountable and being more transparent to, and we promised, when I was elected, I promised the delegation transparency, honesty, and this is the first step in moving forward. And I think the leadership, the new leadership, we will all, along with our state executive committee, continue to be open, honest, and transparent.
Did you find any expenditures that were outside the normal realm of what this business is all about? In other words, we're talking about the gross amount of obligations, but was there anything that you questioned why the party would spend on something like that?
Not at this point. Remember, this is not a certified audit where you go in and do all of the very, very detailed work. But we did look carefully at things that might raise a red flag. We have found nothing at this point.
So nothing illegal at all, from your perspective?
We have found nothing at this point.
Thanks. I didn't.
Yep, yes. Thank you guys all for coming.
Just one point.
Thank you so much.
Was there these guys go back, were they in this previous cycle, or were there some of these unreported gradients, and how far back did they go?
09, small amounts in 09, part of 010, and mostly
A lot of things going on.
Thank you.
I know. Probably a lot of things going on. Why don't you just give me a call?